The topic of today is recapping on the Solar and Storage Expo that happened end of March in Johannesburg, for everyone who couldn't join or could join but felt quite overwhelmed by the variety of new tech and stuff that we saw. So yes, I've got three quite informed gentlemen here joining me today who are going to share their views and any trends they picked up at the show. Before I am going to introduce them closer, I have some technical information. There is a Q&A button down there. And for everyone in the audience who has a question for our panelists or a general question, just pop your questions in there, because then it's easier for us to see and to handle. We will provide a recording of this session. It's going to be on YouTube tomorrow, and you can share it with any colleagues or friends or on your social media profiles and tag us. That would be cool. Before we start introducing, I would like our audience to introduce themselves. So I have a little poll to launch. It should be popping up on your screens right now. Please take a minute to answer so that we also know who's with us today. And yes, then let's start. Shawn Classen from K2, you're the first one. Maybe you introduce yourself with a sentence. What are you doing? Who are you? And what did you do at the solar show?
Thanks, Vivian. So I am Shawn Classen, as Vivian said. I'm the head of K2 Solar for South Africa and Africa. For the solar show, we basically launched some new technologies on our software. There was a lot of focus on the digital side. We introduced some AI features that we can introduce into the software to make it more intelligent. Yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Cool. Thanks, Shawn. Next, Fredrik Hagelberg from
Hi,
IBC
yes.
Solar.
My name is Fredrik Hagelberg. I'm the managing director of IBC Solar South Africa, based in Cape Town. I recently joined the business in January, and IBC Solar is a distributor of renewable energy products. It's been in South Africa for 8 years and is part of the IBC Solar Group. And our participation in the show was to showcase our suppliers and partners predominantly. Yeah, I think it's the 4th or 5th year that IBC Solar has participated at least in the show.
Cool, yes. Nigel Engelbrecht is next.
Hi, my name is Nigel. I'm the sales director for Get Off Grid, and I'm in charge of all revenue generating operations for Southern Africa. We were at the solar show. We've been doing it 3 or 4 years as well. We showcase our lithium batteries with emphasis on high voltage batteries and technology, as well as our new power plant solutions.
Okay. Cool. Yes, thank you. It's great that all of you three are green tech partners, and I think you're quite different. So you have quite different views on the show and what happened. Okay, so I think most of the participants answered the poll already. Click fast if you're still doing it, because I'm about to close. So we see that we have slightly more alumni today. You should see the results on your screen just now. Installation companies, one EPC, solar consulting, and only 24% attended the show, and the rest did not. So that is cool. Then we can share actual news with you. Okay. So my first question is actually, because it's been, Fredrik, you said IBC has been there for the last 5 years or so, but it was the first time that it was 3 days, and it was the first time at Nasrec as venue. How did we like that?
Mixed feelings, if I'm honest. There are conflicting views, and we even discussed this yesterday. But in short, the distance to travel to get there for some of the participants was a challenge. I know a number of EPCs that decided not to participate, but I think Nigel said it best yesterday when we spoke, that a number of people who did participate made the effort to go there, so they were more interested and they were more active. So, there's always a flip side to the coin. Yeah, I'd not been to NASREC for many years, and the previous shows that I've attended were, either in Sandton Convention Center or Gallagher Estate, which is convenient. So there's pros and cons to any location. But if anything, the distance from the center of Johannesburg added value, but was challenging for a number of people, I feel.
Yeah, no, same. But Shawn, were you happy with the audience that you got and the traffic on the stand? Can't hear you yet.
Yeah, sorry about that. Couldn't get the unmute button. The first day for us was very quiet. We found that people on the stand that we met with were students, varsity people, some general residential customers, where the second and third day was, I would say, great interaction. If you had a customer on the stand, the customer was there and he was interested. And we had long and deep conversations with a lot of customers as to past experiences, not only on product, but with EPCs, and then as well as EPCs and their experience of the market. I would say the general feeling was that the year before last year was very quiet, and that this year has actually picked up quite nicely for some. We've seen a massive growth in January, February. April's still going nice and strong as well. And then from the show side itself, it was great to be able to launch some new technologies and stuff with the customers. So I would say, yes, 2 days would probably been enough. I think the shows are watered down because we have so many shows that's popped up in Cape Town as well now. And I mean, we want to have another solar show at the end of this year in Cape Town. I think there's too many shows for that matter. And as we discussed yesterday, that it should be more concentrated on new technologies and what's available, instead of just allowing a flooding of the market with replicated components.
Yeah, I feel the same, that it's too many shows, but I think the show in Johannesburg is still the one to go. It's the biggest.
Correct. 100% agreed.
Exhibits and wherever.
Yeah, if we compare the shows in Cape Town, I mean, you can on average walk through the show in less than an hour.
Yeah.
And that's it's not a what's the word I'm looking for? An indication of the industry.
Yeah,
it's not. There's not enough showcasing there, and all the big players were not there.
Yeah, no, true. I know it's always difficult walking around when you have a stand yourself. But Nigel, did you manage to have a look around? Who was exhibiting? Was everyone there?
All the major guys were there. South Africa has obviously now become a play for all the major brands, as it is in Africa. So we had all the major players, as we all know them by brand. Very much common technologies and topologies scattered throughout the show, giving you an indication of sort of the tech trends for 2025. But it was good to see, because it also serves as a confirmation that for companies like Year of Grid, we are in line with the trends that are required in the market.
You're muted again. Was that intended? Yes.
Yeah, so what I was saying was that the show served as a way of confirming that we are in line with the new trends for 2025. Yeah.
Now that you're hinting on the new trends, you must share, what is it? What are new trends 2025?
Well, look, 2025 is being branded the year of BESS. If your audience, some of your audience doesn't know what BESS is, go look it up. But it is definitely where the market has shifted from convenience cost economy point of view. There were a lot of BESS solutions being demonstrated by most of the brands. We demonstrated our own as well. So we are basically, again, in line with what the latest technology offerings are right now.
Nigel, did you see any AI in the battery space other than Sig?
Other than Sig Energy, no active AI on batteries. Active AI on power plant management and inverters, yes, but not on storage.
Yeah, but I feel like I saw the BESS is definitely a buzzword this year, started last year and definitely this year, and AI too. I feel like everyone labels everything AI now, and then that is the innovation, no? Yeah.
If I could add, sorry, Vivian, just to your
Yeah.
point, just to add to that, I think people like to conflate AI with energy management, control technology, EMS,
Yes.
and it's becoming a really muddled expression because it's not clearly defined yet, really. A lot of the
true.
technology providers are looking to implement better control systems for hybrid systems and for better management. So it's a go-to. There's AI in everything. Actually, there are more algorithms than anything else, to be perfectly honest. They're not machine learning the weather as much as people would like to think they are. It's predominantly algorithms that are predetermined outputs and just input data. But it sounds sexy, obviously, and to sell product, we need to look for opportunities to differentiate. But I think it's going to be a very fast-moving and evolving space. If anything, the AIs are going to take a lot of input when it comes into sort of tariff management more than anything else. And I look forward to seeing how the rest of the suppliers hone their skills and sharpen their solution to accommodate that, especially in the South African market.
Maybe we can go a bit deeper into that when you say energy management and like assessing weather data. Where else will the AI take us, and where are we now in the market, and what can we expect in 2025 and maybe following years?
If you're asking me, my view on that really is when it comes to an open virtual energy trading market, I think we're headed in that direction. So funded offerings for CNI projects is becoming more and more commonplace. And of course, everyone gets excited about wheeling opportunities if they fully grasp what that means. But virtual wheeling is effectively an open energy market and the trading market. And when that platform occurs, that's when AI will really come to bear weight, to really influence system design, because that's going to involve storage, obviously, for peak management and arbitrage, etc. That's when the complexity of a decentralized energy system will really require AI and intelligent solutions. So that's where I think we're headed. That's where the interest lies anyway. You can certainly see all the traders that have registered in the last few years. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have 12 traders or aggregators in South Africa, and 4 or 5 of them registered in this year alone. So that just shows you that there's a lot of demand and sort of pent-up energy that's going to come to bear soon in the South African energy space.
I think that's what we saw at the show, no? That was.
If I may add to Fredrik, layered on top of that is going to be an increase in carbon trading. So your carbon credits, where we're able to sell our carbon credits to European off-takers. Currently, that's a $5 billion market at the moment, which is set to grow about 35% per year. But the drivers on that will be exactly to what Fredrik is alluding to: virtual power plants, decentralized energy systems, reduce cost, increase finance and capital availability.
Yeah. Because Nigel, you said yesterday that you presented a new product at the show, the Rex X1, if I have that name correctly. You said that's you can convert any commercial installation into a power plant. Does that play into that, and how does that work?
Yeah, so the Rex X1 found its birth in Australia, the place we love to hate and love. And now it is fully fledged in Dubai, and it's managing 14 kilometers of industrial complex. So what Rex does is it's ideally suited for commercial complexes as well as residential complexes, to consolidate the energy management, to take control of all products, batteries, inverters, panel generation, then through its design, it will then allow you to manage, charge, make money off the electricity over the next 20 to 25 years. So what it does is it basically takes disparate parts of technologies, creates a unified power plant. Doesn't matter the size of the battery, the brands, the inverters, the panels, it can all be mixed and matched together. It creates a unified power plant. It's like a virtual wheeling plant. And you're able to have full control over that and make money and have recurring revenue over the next 20 years. If you're the EPC installing it. If you're the client, you have complete management of billing. And if you're the end user, you have more efficient power management, so you actually spend less and get more.
That always sounds good. What is it? Is it a physical box or is it just software?
No, it is a probably in length 4 meter by 2 meter Batman looking piece of technology. I don't have a picture to show you. But if you Google Rex 1, you'll see the installations. It's a central solution, easy to deploy, digital smart metering. It is AI generated, so it learns loads. It's a very complex thing, but it's very easy to understand.
Okay, cool. I think that is, like we said before, that is the general trend now, hey? The products are not physical anymore. I mean, we know how modules, how inverters, how batteries look like. So that the boxes that look not very spectacular are the ones that are the cool ones. How does that change the show? Maybe Shawn, how did it impact the show and what we saw this year?
Actually, a good question. I actually can't answer that. Yeah, Nigel, what's your opinion? Do you think that products that were blunt and not exciting looking made a difference?
I think, to be honest with you, I think a battery is a battery and an inverter is an inverter. So where it gets exciting is software, and what are the funding mechanisms available so that we can broaden the market space? To be honest with you, I think even my product range looks the same as others. It's just this, it's not the most exciting stuff. You know, lithium used to be it was super exciting, and that's now the normal.
Yeah.
You know, inverters, hybrid inverters were exciting. You know, it all was very exciting. Now it's become a standardized expectation in the market and quality. What's exciting is the financial modeling behind solutions, the software that's been developed that we're not aware of that is coming to SA right now, and the opportunities that are wrapped around hardware that make it more cost effective for the customer and that broaden the marketplace for everybody. I hope that answers the question. I'm trying to find a picture of the Rex 1 for you quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can echo what Nigel was saying. If anything, it was iteration. It was iterating on existing technology and everyone finessing, you know, oh, I can produce an extra 15 kilowatt hours compared to my competitor, but it's slightly more cost or a bit less. And the only technology iteration that really comes to mind now that I think about it was different guys offering either liquid cooled only or liquid and air cooled or just air cooled, and there would be a price component. Again, it's iteration. It's almost like they were, you know, fighting over details. I think Nigel's correct. I think ultimately it's going to be the package, a solution, the offering that you give. And that's going to come down to, you know, what insurance companies are going to view products as, you know, what's the cost of insuring? What's the premium? What does a warranty look like? You know, what extended warranties look like? All of these things will have an impact on finance, and whoever's going to fund the project will make their determination based on those input values. And ultimately, that's going to drive the tariff. And whatever the tariff that is the most competitive is what's going to be the most interesting. So it's not always about cost. It's also about yield and output and performance. And there's a direct bearing when it comes to things like insurance and warranties. And that sort of finessing, if you will, is about commercial negotiation and deal making. So the battery is the battery. I mean, half of the battery solutions all use the same cells. They're coming from one or two suppliers in any event. So it really is about the packaging, the offering in the end of the day.
What does
I guess I can say the same. Sorry, Vivian. I mean, if we're looking at mounting structures, if you walk the stands, everything was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Every Chinese manufacturer had exactly the same components on their stand. It was like a replica from one stand to the next stand. And I think where we differentiated ourselves was with the software and stuff that we've got running in the background, where it allows the customers to properly plan, and again, we're talking from an investment point of view here, where if a product is correctly designed and stuff, we can actually warranty products now up to 20 years, saying that you've designed it correctly, you've been verified, and we can guarantee that your product will actually last for 20 years and guarantee that you've got the safety involved. And I mean, I'm not sure, Nigel, what you guys are doing about battery safety, but battery safety topics also seem to be coming up quite a lot. And the same on the structure side, because in the last year, we saw a lot of structures fail, and structures that were installed 6 to 8 years ago that are failing. So safety is becoming a concern for the insurance industry. We saw the fire at Table Mountain. Talking to a fire department in Joburg last year, they were saying that 1 out of every 6 fires was solar related. Wow. Is there a trend to increase the safety on the battery side?
So from my point of view, there's a bigger focus on safety on high voltage batteries. There is zero focus on LV right now. And the reason for that is because the cost sensitivity on LV batteries right now is at a level that it's almost unsustainable. So as soon as you include a fire suppression tool within a lithium battery from your OEM in China, it's $50. So that little $50 compounded with logistics, insurance, and freight throws you out of the market in terms of price competitiveness. We tried that exercise, and then we also found that people would prefer not to buy the battery with that. So LV side installers are not pushing safety unless they have to. HV side, we've mandated from the beginning that every single HV battery we deploy has built-in fire suppression.
But Nigel, don't you also think, as it is in Europe, that the tendency is going to be towards regulation for LV systems? Basically, it's going to be external cabinets instead of worrying about, internal fire suppression and technology. Rather just accept that there's a risk, but put it outside the house. For example, I have an old system installed and it's basically inside my scullery, and I'm looking at it going like, I've installed a fire hazard in my own home. And I realize that this is, I should know better, but I don't. and that's something ultimately, so all those external cabinets that you see being developed, it's going to transition. And I think the driving force will be the insurers, because insurance companies now are looking at solar and they're going to say, guys, I don't care what it costs. I'm not insuring your home, or your premium is going to be so excessive to the point that it's going to create the correct incentive to then develop external cabinets for the LV market. And that's basically where it's going to go.
But not only...
Let's circle back to the solar show. We must have a separate webinar on fire safety for batteries. And I'm sure half of the audience here is going to be interested.
Sure, it's Paul.
My question is, now having our audience in mind, what is it that they must have in mind when visiting the next solar show, or when talking to suppliers? Because you're right, it is all the same. It looks all the same. Where are the differences now? You said insurance and financing are points to look at. What else is it that installers should scan for when choosing their suppliers now? Maybe, I don't know who wants to start with that question. Maybe Fredrik, because you've got a good as a wholesaler, you've got a good overview there.
That is a very tough question to answer because you touched on those two topics that mean the most, really. Currently, I see in the market that we service the residential and the commercial, and very different incentives for those installers to operate. They're driven by different metrics. Commercial guys are driven by predominantly funded solutions, so they're building for IPPs or for large commercial entities. Contracting is different, so the technology for them is performance related. Insurance, warranties, etc. The installers for residential are very price sensitive and convenience. So there's somewhat different technology that has to be considered. So when installers come to a show like solar and storage, I would suggest that be very focused on what your market is and pick and choose the technologies that are going to suit your end market, because there are very specific solutions for different markets. There's, I don't want to pick on anyone per se, but let's say Victron doesn't have a high voltage solution. It's really a specialist solution for residential, small commercial, or farmers, for example. That's a really understand their offering compared to some other, and go to Huawei, large inverter systems for large commercial, for mining, or whatever the case may be. Really understand what your objectives are, because you'll just get lost in the noise, and you'll see a million of the same things, just like Shawn said, the same products basically with different packaging, with half of those inverters are all made in the same factory, and they're effectively white labeled and resold under someone else's brand. Unfortunately, there were, I think, maybe one, if not two funders that were at the show. I don't think they recognized the value, and there should have been more of them. Insurers should have been there. I know we'll talk a bit about this further, perhaps, in your questions regarding what the show should look like in future, and it speaks to a little bit about that. Maybe splitting it up and having a more focused approach. I don't know if that answers your question. It's a bit of a rambling answer of mine.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say, and without advertising you guys too much, but I think that is the value of wholesalers like Get Up Grid and IBC Solar, that you can go and ask them what a good solution would be for my kind of customers.
Yeah, so typically at a solar and storage for us, we have two people that we engage with, primarily suppliers and OEMs. In fact, it's an opportunity where we can negotiate and discuss new technology together in person. There's merit to that. And then apart from that, it's a lot of other installers where we showcase our products to them on behalf of our partners, right? We had Solar MD on our stand, cabinet solution. So they're our partner, we support them, but they have their own people on our stand presenting their own technology. So we create a platform for our partners and who we represent. So it's a little bit different for us because we don't have our own technology that we're selling. So we're more representative. So we have a little mini pavilion. So we have an expo within the expo, if you will.
Yeah. No, we said that yesterday. It's all about relationships and partnerships right now because the products are so similar. Yeah. Speaking about the market, where is it heading? Is residential dead? And I want to hear the controversial opinions you had yesterday, please.
No, I don't think so. It'll never be dead.
Sorry, Fredrik. Maybe we'll have Shawn and Nigel, and then you can jump in as well.
I agree, it's not dead. I think installers just need to choose how they're going to approach the residential market. Because what was driving residential before is not driving residential now. In the past, we were focused on load shedding. Load shedding for now is quiet, it's dead. We don't know for how long. Alternatively, installers should be focusing on how they're saving costs using batteries and management systems because they are alternatives. The funding is available. I think it's important that they find the right funders and creating a cost-effective solution for a residential market where savings are easy to see and the payoff period is short, so the customers can actually see the benefit. If you're just going to sell it as a battery backup, or most customers don't have the need, and I think there's a space where definitely in the long term, where customers can benefit on a funded system.
Mm.
That's my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, no, agree. Residential as it was is definitely dead. But it's gonna be new opportunities. Nigel, what's your take on
Yeah.
it? Where's the market?
So residential, we've still got a long way to go, but we have to be very clear. It's not a product argument. It is a financial one. Installers now need to have a basic acumen of financial modeling. It sounds like a big thing, but it's not that big. We have to understand the implications of tariff increases versus the return on investment. So two things here. One, know how to make a financial sale. Product doesn't matter anymore. It matters to the installer because they've got warranties, they trust the people behind the product, that's fine. But for the customer, the end user, it's a financial argument. And then number two, installers need to go make friends with the rental guys, the guys in the market that offer rental finance solutions.
Mhm.
You got Go Solars, Utilities, Versifiers of the world. There's a few more. They will help you fund that customer's installation, allowing you to still do the installation yourself. So that unlocks more value instead of just relying on cash sales. So those are my two pieces of advice.
Mm. Sounds good. Maybe Fredrik, you can come in on the commercial sector, because I think at the show
sure.
we didn't see that. At the show we saw commercial, right?
Sure. I'll just very quickly echo Shawn and Nigel. Both were right on the money when it comes to residential. I've always had a view that the residential market ultimately is going to end up being a financed customer service business. Installers are going to service funders. They're not going to be dealing directly with clients. And that's the only way that they're going to have a role to play in the residential market. Cost of acquisition is way too high for individual installers. That's why all small installers struggle. When it comes to the commercial industrial, look, I view it as a bell curve. The early adopters 12, 15 years ago paid cash. They had the money. There were property funds. There were REITs. They had cash to spend, and they were happy to get a 5 to 8 year payback. Average ROI. It was always better than the rental income they had on their property, and they just turned their roof into another tenant. And once those early adopters and large industrial players had already absorbed all of the available money that was around to install, now we're at the top of the bell curve, and that's the majority of the market, and they typically need finance and funding. So watching the development of PPAs over the last 3 to 4 years, it's basically exponential. It's doubling every year. I'd say more than half of the commercial industrial projects now are funded. And
100%.
And I can see, I don't know, there must be in the last 3 or 4 years, 10 new international IPPs come to South Africa. And basically there is 3 to 4 times the capital available than is actually required to implement projects. Every funder I speak to, they say, I've got 500 million, I've got $1 billion, I've got another $1 billion. There's all the money in the world to fund projects. And now it's really a battle between those guys delivering the best tariff. And that's what's driving the C&I market. And I think without being disrespectful to EPCs, most EPCs are installers that are being forced to procure. And I see this as a distributor, but they're my clients. And there are a handful of actual EPCs with strong balance sheets that are funded correctly, that have the capacity to do these types of projects that are very expensive, much larger portfolio basis, and that's what IPPs do. And that's where the market is going. I see a lot of EPCs focusing on being installers because that's where they can really make an impact. And there'll be a handful of real EPCs ultimately, and then IPPs funding. That's my view on the commercial industrial, and this is going to change dramatically.
But Fredrik, you have to define an EPC here for the audience.
Okay, engineer, procure, construct. So ultimately, it's a hangover from Europe. So EPCs ultimately were infrastructure companies. These were people who had large balance sheets, and they would implement nuclear power stations, or they'll go implement massive infrastructure projects. And we've taken this acronym over to the renewable energy field, and we've implemented in South Africa on solar installers. What it really means, an EPC is an organization that has a strong balance sheet that can secure debt and funding to go borrow 100 million rand to buy equipment and not have working capital constraints and cash flow problems, because that's what a lot of EPCs are suffering. And these are effectively are installers who are being asked to be EPCs. And I think that's where the market is going to evolve more and more. There's going to be some consolidation, and some EPCs either going to become installers, which is a great opportunity if they really focus their efforts on that business, or they're going to fall by the wayside because they're going to try and compete with these large organizations that have the financial acumen and wherewithal, and importantly, the strong balance sheet to do this kind of work.
So asking for our audience now, which is, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, which is mostly installers and maybe small PCs. What must we do now? And I love how this turned out from like a technology-driven conversation to like how the market landscape is completely changing. So what is your advice? How do you brace for this change and that you do not disappear as an installer? Because the market is changing so much, and like the structure of the market is changing so much.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Or no? Okay. I think what they have to do is be very focused on the sector that they want to operate in. And I'm speaking to the audience now of installers. Make sure you understand your market, and you can't be everything to everyone. You really have to pick your partners. So pick the right finance partners, build relationships, understand how they work, understand how their PPAs work, understand how lease agreements work. It's what Nigel mentioned earlier, getting some financial acumen. You don't have to become an accountant, but if you don't know how to sell the solution in terms of a funded offering, you're always going to be on the back foot. Because ultimately, if you want to operate in that space with funders, you have to understand their business to be able to sell it correctly. If you're going to sell directly to clients, effectively a cash business, that's something else entirely. Then you have to make sure that you can secure working capital to be financially independent and strong enough to do that. Because ultimately, if you're going to borrow money or use an overdraft to support that business, it's like you're from project to project. It's very stressful, and a lot of cash flow constraints. And when there's a quiet dip like we had towards the end of last year, a lot of businesses failed as a consequence of that. They just didn't have the support, the backing to keep them afloat. So really pick your battles. There's so much work to be done. There's wheeling business, ground mounts out in the middle of nowhere. There's rooftop. There's elaborate, complex designs. There's integrated, hybrid, containerized storage with PV. I mean, there's so many different solutions that you could design. Just don't try and do everything for everyone. You'll just get lost in the middle, is my point of view. That's what I've seen our customers suffer as a consequence.
And specialize on brands, specialize in your product.
Yeah,
don't
understand
choose a cheap inverter every day. Get to know the product that you're working with so that you can actually support it.
Nigel, you also had something to add on that?
No, I don't have anything to add. I think I think I can learn from Shawn and Fredrik. I think I must just be quiet and listen.
I don't think so.
But find your niche, understand finance and understand tariffs. A lot of guys I do business with don't understand the tariffs. I've got a really cool free resource you can share with your audience. And it was a breakdown of tariffs and how the tariff increase is not what we think it is. It's even more. So when you take that and you put it into a basic financial model for your customer, things change.
Yeah. I think that is the perfect niche for me for a little commercial break. As a training provider, we definitely have a solution for that as well if you want to top up your skills in that area. If you visit our website, we've got the commercial PV design course, which is a 3-day masterclass on everything around commercial PV design, including the financial aspects of a project and the planning and everything, so that you understand what commercial PV design really entails. Technology management and finance wise. And then if you say you want just the financing portion, we've got a training on financing only. That's a 1-day course on financing for PV systems, where we look at the tariffs, where we look at savings and tax advantages and everything around that topic, do the calculations, look at actual projects and how they pay off. So that you can exactly fill those two skills gaps and prepare for the market that our 3 panelists described just now. Course dates you also find on the website for the commercial design course. The next ones that are coming up are happening in Durban on 2nd of July, Pretoria 15th of July, and Cape Town 26th of August. So there's still plenty of time to make your mind, to sign up for a course, benefit from the early bird prize, and then make a plan how to drive your business into the future. That is commercial PV design. That was quite a professional commercial break. If we go back to the show and the technology, there must have been other innovations, no? Is there any product you saw that impressed you, if you think about that?
I think on my side it's the increasing surge of EV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the big display of BYD, but if you looked around, you would see EV charging solutions are becoming quite a thing. And we can see that even with the government subsidy of, I think it was about 50 billion, I'm not sure, stand to be corrected. EV is definitely the next gold rush for the next few years. Yeah.
Yeah. Dear audience, if you have questions already, you can start putting them into the Q&A button down there, because I will take questions from the audience towards the end. But yeah, thanks, Nigel. Definitely I can confirm that every single stand, like not every, but like most stands definitely had some sort of an EV charger sitting there.
I actually met with a customer yesterday who apparently rushed out after the show, went to buy himself a BYD double cab. And he says he loves every moment of it. So there's definitely
Did
a
he
rush
get
towards
the
it.
Shark?
Yes, he got the Shark, yeah. He says he's loving it.
Yeah, well,
It's the
return
best move he's ever made.
I think that's everyone who ever tried an EV is never gonna go back. What is your opinion on that as wholesalers, Nigel and Fredrik? Are you preparing for that as well now? Do you have EVs on offer? Is it because I feel like South Africa wants to somehow, but
Yeah, look, we supply EV chargers. There's very little demand currently. And that's a little bit of sentiment. It's a little bit of fear. Nobody wants to be the first, except for wealthy people who can afford to buy them off the bat. You know, the infrastructure to support EVs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't see a huge amount of demand, not yet. I'm somewhat skeptical, to be perfectly honest. I think EV chargers for home-based and office-based kind of make sense, but long distance travel, the network isn't really there yet. But I mean, it'll get there eventually. If it happens for residential cars or if it happens for commercial first, who knows? I'm not close enough to that industry to be perfectly honest, but I don't see the demand, ultimately, is what I'm saying. Not yet.
So Fredrik, when he was mentioning the bell curve, that's what's happening over here, right? It's just over there on the EV stuff. So we got a long road to go. Remember, the biggest challenge for EVs is what? It's your infrastructure. It's all your charging stations. And we've got a long way to go. But
now's the time to learn.
Correct. Now's the time. Get into the flow of something developing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We have an interesting question already from the audience. Can we have some comments on Sig Energy products? They only boost the AI feature, but can it work in remote areas? Maybe if one of you knows more about Sig Energy, we can share what is so special about them, because they are hyped a lot at the moment in the market. I feel like. So Fredrik, maybe you can explain what the hype is about, and then answer the question if it's also for remote areas.
All I can say is that I know there's a lot of demand. Unfortunately, I can't speak to the technology because I don't supply it and I don't know enough about it. So anything I say, you'd have to take with a pinch of salt and a lot of caution. So I would rather leave it to those who know better. But I definitely know that there's a lot of demand. And what I hear from EPCs is that they enjoy working with Sig and they enjoy installing it. So far, so good. Let's see, there's hype only lasts so long, and they haven't been in the market really long enough to be tested fully, So after 2 or 3 years, then we'll start seeing if, returns start happening and failures and what have you, because it's inevitable with every product, we have to be realistic about all technology and see what works, what's stable.
If I can,
Therefore, residential
contribute
and
there.
smaller commercial sector, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually being sold in both sectors. Yeah. Vivian, if I can just contribute there, I mean, from what I've seen on the Sig product, I love it from a technical point of view. The question with regards to remote, that's definitely one of my concerns, because the problem with the Sig inverter, I say problem, is that you can't see what's wrong unless it's via your app. And the same from a support point of view is you can't, and if it's remote and you've got no power and you've got no communication, there's no support on the product. And I'm not sure how they're dealing with that, but I think it's a valid question and a valid concern.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk in an off-grid environment. Nigel.
So Sig Energy, if you put the AI stuff aside, number one, aesthetics, super nice, it's attractive. Sig Energy, if you look at its topology, it gets cheaper the bigger it gets, because you need less moving pieces with it, less consumables. So Sig Energy came to us wanting us to sign distributorship in Zambia. So I got to see the whole sales presentation, and I got to see the numbers. So their warranty is also very much a replacement warranty. So it's a good product, no doubt about it. Sig Energy offers their own funding within the brand. I mean, it's, they've come to South Africa really well prepared, but time will tell after 5 years if the market still enjoys it, if it's still around. We've seen a lot of brands come, big flash, and then go. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Another question. Will there be a place in the market for us as small installers that do it with a passion and serve your clients?
Well, yes, definitely. That's the obvious answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just be prepared and know your market really well. That, as I said earlier, that's critical.
Yeah, I think that is exactly the answer. As long as you have found your niche, may it be product, may it be your financing brain, or is it a community where you're well connected? I think that's definitely it. Yeah.
And something that mustn't be neglected is the service side. PV systems that have been installed also needs to be serviced. And that's a market that's currently being neglected. There's definitely a space that needs to be played there.
Yeah.
In fact, that's to your point, Shawn, there's a huge gap there for asset management for small systems. If there's an installer out there who struggles to compete, there's one thing that they can do is offer maintenance, operation and maintenance services. And that's a credible business offering, and there's value there. And
100%.
And I could even suggest, speak to some insurers. You might find a lot of money being made available to support that.
Fredrik, to your point, the O&M side, especially on commercial, if you look at it now, the guys are now where they used to not really care about O&M, they are now trying to bring in as much O&M contracts as they can. So asset management, there you go. Business opportunity. I'm going to write that down.
Yes, please. Business plan next week. Yeah. No, I think it's fascinating always how we know it's gonna happen, but then the market still needs to develop, and it still needs to like systems need to break down. And Shawn, I mean, systems need to fly off roofs, and then people realize
it's important that you evolve your business. You need
Yeah.
to evolve your business,
Yeah,
and you need to grow with the product.
definitely. Yeah. Next question is, when are we scheduling commercial PV design training for people in Zimbabwe? Well, we would love to. We have an academy in Zimbabwe, so I guess as soon as we have a group together who wants to do commercial PV design, we will be happy to do a training course. Just contact us and contact our academy in Zim, and then we can gather people for that, and then we can start offering a course. And I think Get Off Grid is also in Zimbabwe. So if you have any technical questions on the way, you can definitely also approach Nigel. Next question. If we move towards an environment where people connect to an open network, it will require that equipment from different vendors must support open communication protocols to integrate with control systems. Is there development on that? Nigel, you're nodding, so you're...
Yes, there is development on that. There is, there's a couple of outfits in America that have pretty much built a unified platform that inverters and batteries can link into. It's again coming back to how Rex first found its birth was through this kind of software. So you can link all your inverters to it. It'll take over everything, consolidate information, and then you've got one dashboard for any brand wherever they are. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Bitcoin miners can be used to consume excess energy. Are there any products available for that? Well, that's a very specific question.
Well, whether it's
think he's
Bitcoin
found
miners
his
or
niche.
anyone else, I mean, you know, it's just wheeling power from one place to the other. That's again, it's a financial construct. It's about understanding how to deliver power through utility or a network. I'm assuming not a little, you know, islanded system. You know, this is about energy trading ultimately.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
sure, absolutely, it would be the question. Let me know when you have some Bitcoin to share. I'll happily participate.
Yeah. How much larger in terms of physical dimensions are solar modules going to get, or have we reached the outer limits now? Please.
I hope we've reached the limits. I mean, they're already excessively large, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts. I speak to some of the module producers, and you know, they keep coming to me. Oh no, 700 watt, no problem. 720, blah, dimensions 2.4 meters. It's nuts. To the point where some modules are sagging. Yeah, and they're starting to sag.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. And what I see in Europe is that they're now being larger modules are being banned to be installed on rooftops.
Yeah,
it's just a
was
health
actually
and
going to say
safety
that
problem.
as well.
Yes, I would ask you next, Shawn. What's your opinion on that? With like the
I mean,
ban and the sagging
in
must
Europe,
be a nightmare.
In Europe and in the US, it's become compulsory that a panel is not allowed to exceed 2 square meters. And there's two reasons for that. One was the fact that the larger modules are designed for ground mount installations and large scale projects, where the risk with handling such a large panel on a roof is not only the weight, but the fact that you're actually carrying a sail.
Yes.
You're carrying a wind sail on the roof. And I mean, it's not going to take a massive wind to actually blow somebody off the roof. That's happening. So I think it's something that needs to come into play in South Africa as well, especially with the high wind loads and stuff that we have. We have seen a lot of modules that have been sagging, especially because installers are installing outside of the clamping zones, or they're doing short side clamping. The second thing that needs to be considered as well is the fact that there's only so many places that a manufacturer can actually reduce costs. And what a lot of the panel manufacturers have done is they've gone from 5 mil glass to 3 mil glass, and they've reduced the frame sizes. And by doing that, they've made them weaker. There was an article out at the end of August last year, if I remember correctly, that's saying that there's a huge what's the word? But basically, there was a surge of panels that started falling out of their frames, the glass. Panels that were installed up to 8 years ago are now starting to drop out of their frames, where obviously the glue and the wind loads and the pressures and everything else, the environmental impact that with the increase of wind loads that we've seen the storms, we've seen the wind loads increasing, and it's not just like it's increased in Cape Town, it's increased in Joburg, it's increasing everywhere. So yeah, we have to look at the fact that those modules might still get bigger. Your efficiency is not getting any better, and the module's just getting larger. And
no, it's a big problem.
There's
If
a
I
couple
could
of
add,
reasons for it, yeah.
Yeah, no.
I think the only way it's ever going to get resolved is regulation and insurance companies. It sounds terrible, but ultimately industry bodies have to apply leverage, because if they don't, the manufacturers are just going to force installers into building what they want to produce.
Yeah.
And
I
it's a
mean,
great
technically
irony.
speaking, a 790 watt panel should have 3 rails on it.
Yeah.
Speaking from a structural engineering point of view, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We have one last question, sorry.
Yeah.
We have one last question that is quite interesting that I still want to answer in the last 2 minutes that are remaining. And that is, what emerging AI technologies or software that will shape the future of solar for remote PV monitoring and reporting for an O&M company in this case?
Well, I know what I want. I just want better controls and tariff management for arbitrage and trading. That's where AI is going to be implemented. I don't see it yet, but it's a natural fit. That's ultimately where it's going to go, is my view.
I haven't seen anything great, so I really can't comment on this. But I agree with Fredrik. That's where it needs to go.
Yeah.
I think the weather-based adjustments and like general like energy management. I
They're
think
not there yet.
A bit of that.
No, from a structural. So from a structural point of view, sorry, Nigel. From a structural point of view, we've started bringing in components that are monitoring weather to warn clients if they're having issues and stuff. For example, we've introduced a product in Europe called the Buddy, which basically warns a customer if the snow loads on his panels are starting to exceed what the panels can actually handle. And I know we're going to do the same for wind loads as well, to start warning customers if the wind loads on the panels are starting to exceed what the panels are. As a pre-warning cursive to, well, so there's definitely technology at work. Whether it's in the right spaces, that's, I think, where we actually need to focus and see where it needs to go.
Yeah. Nigel, last comment on that as well?
I think AI is going to change the face of energy over the next 5 years in every facet. And AI is going to be critical to financial monitoring, return on investment, carbon trading, virtual wheeling. It's going to take over. It's going to be useful to lower costs of projects, but increase efficiencies. So we're seeing the beginning of it, but fast forward 5 years, AI is going to be in everything.
I believe AI is going to replace installers as well.
No.
Probably the only industry that's safe from
please and
that.
thank you when you ask ChatGPT. Hey, Sam Altman said, please and thank you don't hurt. All right. We have another question on the green training and the PVA, the green card assessment. Becky Zakani is your woman to help. So send her a message. Check her. You find her email address on our website. Everyone else who still has a question, we will we share your contact details? Yes, we have your email addresses. We'll send a follow-up email to everyone who signed up for the webinar, and we can share contacts to of our panelists and include the link of the recording. Thank you very much for joining. I have one last question before we all leave. Will you be back at next year's Solar and Storage Expo. Fredrik.
Yes, we will. We've already paid the bill. So regardless of my feelings, we'll be there, but in a slightly different format.
Nice. Yes. Shawn?
We'll be there, but we'll be with our partners. So we won't have a stand. I think we've realized that there's nothing sexy about mounting structures anymore. It's dealing with our customers through our distributors and showing them how to benefit from the technology we have.
Yeah. Nigel?
I think we will be there, but we won't be there the same as we always are. I think we'll be there very focused on one or two specific products at a max.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much. I think those are very cool insights. It's interesting times in the solar industry, technology-wise, and also like how the market is going to develop. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and for being available for our alumni for all the questions and for supporting us as installers and as a training academy. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next year at the Solar Show and also before that in other formats. So thank you, everyone. And
Cool.
thanks
Thanks a
so
lot.
much for attending.
Thanks for the invite.
See you next time.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.